take a deep breath in, and on the out breath, that's it, relax those eyelids and position your body in the way that's most comfortable for you. As you breathe in, I want you to imagine breathing in a resourceful feeling of relaxation. And as you exhale, just want you to get a sense that stress, anxiety, or worries are just leaving your body in your outward breath. That's right. So much so that with each and every breath, just imagine more and more resources going in, and just giving yourself permission to let go of the physical sensations of what you've been carrying for so long. That's it. Use the power of your imagination to imagine a warm, vibrant colour that represents resourcefulness going in through your nose, filling your lungs with a warm sensation there in your chest. And as you exhale, use that power of your imagination to imagine a shadowy grey colour leaving your body that represents any tension, anxiety, but also any feelings of unfinished business. Just imagine that that is leaving your body in your outward breath. That's it, taking you deeper and deeper, relaxed. Continue to breathe in and breathe out, and notice that as your physical body relaxes, your imagination can start to become more active. And I want you to use that power of your imagination to picture a beach, a particular beach, maybe a beach that you've been to many times, but I want you to imagine that you're not just seeing the beach. Imagine what it would be like to be on the beach. That's right. Perhaps there's the sound of the waves crashing on the shore. You would get a sense of what your feet would feel like walking on that beach, perhaps the occasional pebble, sand, the freshness of the air. And I want you to imagine there is no one else on this beach but you. This is your place of tranquility, solitude, your safe place. You're safe in this place. That's it. Continue to breathe in and breathe out. You need to imagine the weather as whatever the weather would make you feel safest and most calm. Maybe you can feel the sun on your skin, maybe a gentle breeze. But here in this beach, there's something about it where you can let go. And you like to let go. You've been holding things together for too long. You've been taking on not only your pressure, but the pressure of other people. And here, you can breathe, and you don't have to hold on to those responsibilities. That's it. Continue to breathe in and breathe out. I want you to use the power of your imagination to imagine that somewhere on this beach is a large, perhaps even gigantic, oil drum made of metal, maybe blue in colour. And if you can imagine seeing that giant oil drum just there on the beach, let me know by nodding your head. I want you to imagine this is a weird oil drum in the sense that it actually has a lid. It's not a sealed container, it has a lid on the top. And I want you to notice that currently this giant oil drum is full to the brim. I want you to get a sense that there's only really two options. You can either try and keep a lid on that oil drum and keep everything contained, wondering what would happen if things would spill over. But I want you to get a sense that there's something you haven't really seen before in this oil drum. I want you to get a sense that at the base of the oil drum is a tap. And for so long now, you felt this pressure. And I want you to get a sense as you see that oil drum Get a sense of where you would feel the oil drum. If that oil drum was inside you, just place your hand on where that oil drum with all that pressure in would be if it was inside you. That's it. Feel it's got that lid on there. And sometimes you can't keep a lid on it and it overflows. It might feel like it's going all the way up to your chest and your throat. But I want you to get a sense that there is a tap. And I want you to get a sense that so much of what's in this oil drum are things from the past, not even recent events. There's echoes of things that have been swept under the carpet, the past buried, but it's manifested itself as a liquid in this drum, this big oil drum. And the liquid doesn't have to be oil. You could just imagine it's emotional crap here in this oil drum. If you get a sense that the oil drum is either full or close to full right now, just let me know that in your head. That's right. And I want you to get a sense that over time, there was times in your past, perhaps as a child, as a teenager, where you were full of emotional resilience and capacity. It used to take a lot to kind of bother you in any way. But these days it feels like sometimes the smallest thing, a look, a phrase, just one additional thing can just kind of have you feeling completely overwhelmed. And if it feels like that's true, let me know by nodding your head. That's right. And sometimes when you felt that way, the only thing you could do is to distract yourself, giving your attention to something that takes all of your thoughts and your focus, and while you're in that place, doesn't it feel like how you feel on this beach? Kind of escaping away from all the troubles, all the mayhem, all the chaos, all the overwhelm. But it was a coping strategy rather than a way to actually start to empty that tank. I want you to get a sense that this tank, if you were to empty that tap, would spill out onto the beach, making its way into the sea. And I want you to imagine that although it's emotional crap for you, it's completely fine to be drained into the sea. It's not poisonous, it's not toxic. And I want you to feel how good it would feel to just release that tap. Just turn it gently at first, see a few drips, and then a few more. And notice that feeling there inside of you immediately feels like you're releasing that pressure. Might be a trickle, then even more. And I want you to get a sense that this emotional crap, the first emotional crap, there's nothing you can possibly do. These are just things from the past that everything there was to learn, you've already learnt. You already have the wisdom from this experiences. So all there is to do is to let this stuff go. And most of what's in this is just emotions that have served their purpose from long ago. First of all, let's drain all the shame away. If there's any shame from moments of the past, you've learnt from it, it's served its purpose. It's no longer needed. Let it drain and watch it just go washing into the sea. And when all the shame has gone, just let me know by nodding your head. That's right. If you've been holding on to that for too long, just let it go. And then the guilt. You've been holding on to too much guilt for too long. Guilt sometimes means that you need to learn an important lesson, raise your standards, do things differently going forward than you have in the past. But sometimes guilt isn't even your guilt. Often you've been holding the guilt for other people's choices, decisions. And if you're ready to let that guilt go, just let me know in your head. That's it. And see it leave that giant oil tank. You can see it navigate around the pebbles, into the sands, and just see it going into the sea, and immediately just feels like you feel lighter. You're releasing that. And when that guilt is gone, just let me know in your head. And now anger. Sometimes anger is a useful emotion to show that your rights, your values were not respected. You were not treated fairly. Your rules were broken. You've perhaps made the decisions you needed to as a result of that anger. So if you're still holding on to the anger, it's poisoning you and no one else. Time to let that anger go. See that anger drain from that oil tank down onto the beach, making its way to the sea. Doesn't it feel good to just let that anger go for a minute? I want you to get a sense as all this stuff is leaving the oil tank. The oil tank is getting emptier and emptier. Frustrations. Just let those frustrations go. See it drain, trickle, perhaps even more than that, and just see it leave the oil tank on those pebbles, on those sand. You can see almost like a little river flowing towards the sea. You've seen this before when the tide comes in and the tide goes out. Sometimes the sea water has to find its way back to the sea, but this time it's this emotional crap that you've been holding on to, and it's good to see that drain away. Because if it's draining away from the tank, it's also draining away from you. It's no longer inside you. It feels good to let that drain away. I want you to drain away doubt, self-doubt in particular, hatred. If there's things that you hate, people that you hate, it's one of the most poisonous emotions that you can hold on to. If it helps you make good decisions going forward, then that's wisdom and that's worth keeping. But the hate no longer needs to stay with you. Allow it to drain. Self-doubt drain away. Allow it to drain and see it drain away. Little channels being made there on that beach, going all the way into the sea, and then see a big wave coming and just wash it away. When it feels like it's left the tank, but more importantly, it's left you, let them know by nodding your head. That's it. And you get a sense of what other emotions that you're holding on to. Maybe it's sadness. Maybe it's frustrations and worries. Maybe it's the pressure of expectation of who you were meant to be, who you hope to be. Unrealized dreams and ambitions. And if that enables you to activate the part of you that sets something new, that's exciting and compelling, then that's great. But if you're holding on to the idea that you failed in some way, that's holding you back. So just allow these unwanted emotions to just drain from this tank. Allow it to go away. Painful memories also exist in this tank. Perhaps you open the tap wider of this tank so more of this emotional crap comes out. Any painful memories, I want you to imagine that two things have the innate ability to happen. One, that you're able to disassociate, to see yourself as someone else. But secondly, shrink those memories down, make them far away, black and white, tiny. And in doing so, see these painful memories. Any memories that can cause any unwanted, undesirable emotion at all. You see yourself as someone else, even small, far away, black and white. And get a sense that they're all going into the sea. And then what's left are things that you can actually do something with. And I want you to imagine what is now draining is key decisions that you need to make. Your intuition's been telling you for a while that there's certain things that you need to decide what to do with. That unsettled feeling sometimes is that you need to make decisions, and sometimes those decisions are to create healthy new boundaries in your life. Sometimes it's move away from those things that don't serve you and do more of those things that inspire you and make you feel good, make you feel passionate, make you feel competent, make you feel significant. And as you see these things, I want you to imagine that it's no longer a liquid coming out of this tank, but a representation, perhaps a thought or an idea of what you need to make a decision on. and realize that you don't have to make the decision in the moment, but if you can make the decision in the moment, know that each and every decision that you make releases the pressure in that drum. And I want you to imagine there's just one key decision that you know that you need to make. And you can either decide to make it now, or you can decide that you're going to, over the next 1, 2, 3 days, give it careful thought, evaluation, looking at all the different options and make a decision on that key area of your life. And as you do so, just making a decision that you will make a decision also releases the pressure in that oil tank. And when you do that, let me know by nodding your head. That's it. Some of the things in these oil tank are creating emotions simply because you haven't taken an action yet. It might be something you need to do. An email you need to write and send. A phone call you need to make. Perhaps something else. Something to buy, something to sell, something to do. I want you to get a sense that whatever is the key action that will reduce the vast majority of the pressure in that oil tank is the thought that will come to mind. Something that if you did that thing would release that pressure and feeling of overwhelm. And sometimes the biggest pressure is not what we need to do, but just the inaction we've taken, knowing that we need to do something. And sometimes those things that we need to do don't even take very long. Sometimes a few minutes, sometimes less than an hour. And sometimes it's a thing that happens in many stages, but you can do the first part of that sequence that will immediately reduce feelings of overwhelm and pressure on you. And if you know one thing that you can do to release the pressure, the stress, the overwhelm in your life, just let me know by nodding your head. That's it. And now is not the time to do the thing, but just set an intention to do that thing. I want you to make a conscious decision as to what you need to do and where you need to do it. What place will you be in and what will you physically need to do? And once you know that you will do that, set a time and a place that you will do that, perhaps tomorrow, maybe the day after. And once you've locked that in your mind as to when you're going to do that, then the pressure is released. And what's remaining in this tank now is only two things: acceptance and forgiveness. Anything that you can't change, perhaps moments of the past, at the point of acceptance, you're rewarded with the ability to learn an even deeper lesson than you did before. Allow all of those things that you need to accept to drain away, and what you lose in all of that liquid leaving that pressured oil tank, you gain in wisdom and reflection. And notice that feeling in your chest, your gut, just feels lighter already. The weight that you've been carrying on your shoulders feels less. Already it's easier to breathe. So much more emotional resilience capacity in your tank. And then the final thing, there are people that you need to forgive. In the same way that you've acted in certain ways when you had very little emotional resilience left. You were at the brink, ready to burst, overflowing with emotional crap. And if it's the case that you didn't always make the best decisions or take the best actions when you were at the brink of carrying so many demands on your plate, just let me know by nodding your head. Isn't it safe to say that maybe other people are also dealing with pressure and crap that you can't comprehend? And in the same way that you now have the ability to forgive yourself, isn't it also the case that you've got the ability to forgive others? And forgiveness has two key stages. Forgiving them inside your own head, and then deciding what needs to happen in order to change the dynamic with that person going forward. And sometimes you can just decide to forgive someone with no intention of ever communicating with them again, but the forgiveness is enough so that the thought of their name or their face causes no emotion whatsoever. But sometimes the person you need to forgive or want to forgive, you do want in your life at some point in the future. But knowing that you forgive them creates a doorway of possibility to restoring some kind of relationship. You don't have to do that straight away, but just know that the door is opening at the point where you offer that forgiveness inside your own mind. Perhaps picture their face. And forgiveness is really about understanding that nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes. And in doing so, forgiving them for their thoughts, words, actions, or perhaps positive intentions that were just delivered in a really bad way. Doesn't mean you have to do anything right now. But know that if you forgive someone and there's an action that you haven't done yet, that liquid remains in the tank. And it may be that that tank has gone from 100% full to maybe just 5 or 10% full, because there are still actions that you will need to take, decisions that you will need to make. It just feels that there's a lot less of them. And the final thing to do is to forgive yourself. Genuinely forgive yourself. You weren't perfect. But isn't it the case you try to do the best with the resources you have? Try to learn from things when they didn't go to plan. And sometimes you did things that with the benefit of hindsight you would have preferred to have done differently. But the fact that you know that means that you're wiser now than you were back then. And if you are willing to fully forgive yourself, but willing to take on that responsibility of living to the higher standards with that wisdom that you now possess, let me know by nodding your head. That's it. I want you to imagine that originally this oil tank on this beach, full of emotional crap, was at full or nearly full. But now most of it is drained away into the sea, and therefore you feel so much more capable, more resourceful. You're carrying less crap around with you. The equivalent of not sweeping stuff under the carpet, but lifting that carpet and just putting it all in a dustbin and putting it in the bin. Of really digging into whatever was buried in the past and realizing that most of it is just turned into soil anyway and there's nothing left to do. So all this stuff you've been trying to keep a lid on, actually, you've just allowed to drain straight into the sea. And why would you need to keep a lid on this tank now when it's 90 or 95% empty? The lid will just stay there by itself. And even if you go through tough times, know that you can always come back to this beach and drain that tank and feel that you've got more emotional capacity to just deal with whatever life is throwing at you. And if it now feels that tank of emotional crap is now empty or virtually empty, just let me know by nodding your head. And realize that this way of breathing, where you breathe with less tension, doesn't have to be a moment. This is just how you can breathe. And this feeling that you're carrying less weight on your shoulders can just be how you carry yourself from this point onwards. And that feeling that you don't need to hold on to all that tension can just be a new barometer, so that when you do feel tension, it's a reminder that maybe you need to let go of some stuff that you're carrying. To be kinder to yourself. To forgive yourself, to forgive others, but also to treat life as an opportunity to experience good things or just learn how to make your future better than the past. And if you know categorically that you're wiser now than at any other point in your life, let me know by knowing in your head that's right. And what you've lost in emotional crap, you've gained in wisdom, insight, and resilience. Because what is resilience if it isn't becoming stronger based on all the crap that you've gone through? That emotional resilience that you now have, that emotional capacity, means that your tank is bigger than almost anyone else's, because you've dealt with so much crap. You've just allowed it to drain away now. So what might easily trigger someone else will now be a drop in the ocean for you, because your emotional tank is so big that you can handle so much more than anyone else, knowing that you can release that pressure at any point in the future, becoming wiser and more understanding in the process. And then just take a walk down that beach. But take a walk feeling lighter on your feet, breathing in a relaxed way, feeling a sense of peace that perhaps you haven't experienced in a long while, knowing that the future is brighter than the past, that you're wiser, able to make better decisions now than at any other point in your life. And if you're ready to close one chapter of the book of your life and start a new chapter, but you write it as you want it to be, let me know by nodding your head. And hold on to that thought that there is a new dawn, a new chapter, a new opportunity to take your life in exactly the direction you want to take it. Hold on to that thought, hold on to that feeling of excitement and optimism, as you now know that you've unlocked the emotional capacity to handle a lot more than you thought you could, as you realize that the beach and the drum is just thoughts within your own imagination. Dreams within dreams, ideas within ideas, thoughts within thoughts, and actually, you're listening to my voice firmly in the present, right here, right now. And very soon I will count from 1 to 10 to awaken you, but right now, take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, get a sense that you're in your own physical body right now, but hold on to that feeling of resourcefulness, optimism, positivity, feeling much more emotional capacity to deal with whatever life throws at you. As I now count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. Starting to count. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.